Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team career mode. This is episode number 93 today for the British Grand Prix in Season 6. If you guys did miss the previous episode at Zandvoort, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because that was an upset and a half at Verstappen's home race in the Lion's Den. We were able to steal away the lead he had and get a race win once more for Scuderia Ferrari. Our second of the season is Ferrari's fourth in total. So despite the engine failures, despite the DNF at Monaco, maybe things are changing here at the Scuderia, because we've gone from 0 wins last season, all the time Verstappen and Mick Schumacher grabbing poles, grabbing high grid positions, but never converting it. And this season, the team as a whole has converted 4 into P1 race wins, 25 points on the board, and it means that Verstappen now is only 10 points behind the championship leader Fernando Alonso, who continues to lead this championship. You know, that consistency and load of points he got at the start of the season helping him out, and then damage limitation for him grabbing a top 5 around Zandvoort. But yeah, that was a very scintillating one around Zandvoort with the race leader spinning out. It looked pretty good for Audi, but then the safety car changed everything for us and allowed us to steal away the race win from Verstappen effectively. And hopefully we're going to be able to build on that momentum now off the back of our second race win for the team. We come to our home race, the British Grand Prix, and as per usual, lovely UK weather is with us here for Saturday. It is raining, it's downpouring, as we've got the full wet tyres, the blue wall, full on tread. And we're going to have to take a couple of laps to try and zone in with this Ferrari in wet conditions. I must say, it feels like a bit of a boat. On intermediates around Austria, it was fine, but full wets around Silverstone for some reason felt so tragic compared to my team car of AAR in seasons gone by. So taking 2-3 laps to fully get up to speed potentially here by the end of the session as we go for another flying lap. But unfortunately this one, 2 red first sectors, so we are hardly improving. We're down in P15, so if we're not careful, this could actually be us out of qualifying at the first hurdle. We're not going to improve on this lap. We've thrown away all the time there. Thankfully, we are just going to get through, as it was pretty damn tricky for everyone. And no one else really improved behind us, thankfully. So we do squeeze through in P15, but Verstappen's up there in P7, showing that, you know, the car itself struggling, because Verstappen you'd usually think would be right up there in these kind of conditions. But the Audis, Williams, Mercedes looking pretty damn good in these conditions. And as we go on into Q2, it's full wets right now, but I was a bit skeptical because I saw an icon that I thought looked a bit like intermediates, because there wasn't the 2 deckers of rain droplets. It was just 1 deck of rain droplets. So I asked my team and they said they weren't too sure, which was great. Great stuff there from my Ferrari strategist. And then I went on to ask them again just as we are ending our lap before the pit entry, and this is what they had to say.
Light rain will stay with us for at least 20 minutes, maybe more. Light rain is here to stay. Inters and wets will probably have similar pace at the moment.
So thank God I am actually in this team calling the shots for myself at least, because yeah, the team, that was classic Ferrari communication and thinking, really. They were just too eager to get me out on the full wets. They recommended the wets, and as soon as I went out there, I thought, you know what, this already looks time for intermediates. And I thought it would be from the weather indicator. So Verstappen stayed on the full wets, as is everyone else. I'm the only man who has gone on to intermediates, and probably good, because I wouldn't have gotten through on full wets. I didn't have the pace. It was there in Q1 to see. I did not have the pace to kind of compete with these guys on full wets. But on inters, the car comes towards us a little bit, just like it did in Austria. As we drift around the final few corners, we've gained heaps of time, and we come across the line to go fastest of all. But to say the track was ready for intermediates, the fact I'm only 9 thousandths ahead of Lando Norris in the Audi on full wets just shows, really, the lack of pace of this red car in wet conditions around this track for some reason. It was great around Austria, I feel, but around Silverstone, higher downforce needed, just not there, and Verstappen is knocked out in P13. It's a horrendous time for the other side of the garage, and proves my point of, I mean, if I'd stuck to what the Ferrari engineers wanted to do, we would have had both cars out of Q2, and that would have been appalling. So my home race weekend, we've taken matters into our own hands and managed to get into this top 10 shootout, and now we're here intermediates again for this last qualifying session. Lando Norris going well, showing Audi have actually kept that pace and momentum from Zandvoort. These tracks suiting them way more than the ones that just went before them as we wrestle the car through to try and find some time. Actually somehow found some time, pretty much drifting, going opposite lock through that left-hander as we go on to this back straight now, about a quarter of a second up, and eventually it's going to be nearly about 7/10 I think on the exit up, maybe 8/10 even, as we find more and more time. Purple second sector, so it's looking good at the moment, down in P7, but hoping this can get us right up there towards the first few rows, or even the first row, dare I say. Let's see, 1 second gained, and that'll get us up into P4 only, to be fair. I was a bit surprised at that. 1 second gain and only P4, so just shows how quick everyone else has been in this session, and really just, again, maybe the lack of speed in this car in these conditions around the track, as we're now trying to find some more time on our final flying lap in the top 10 shootout, and the track evolution is insane. The track is getting drier and drier by the minute, and so the standing water is a lot less, and it means we're going to gain 1.1 seconds on this final lap. We're down in P10. How high is this going to get us? 1.2 seconds nearly gained on that final flying lap. Wow. Oh wow. P9. Are you kidding me? What? 1.3 seconds off pole. This car's an well, it's not a boat, because it's not navigated this circuit well at all in the wet. That is horrendous. Wow. Well, thankfully, tomorrow's race is a dry affair, so let's all pray the race pace of this Ferrari is much better in the dry, but it's a 1-2 lockout for Audi. Once again, they're looking supreme on a Saturday, but unlike Zandvoort, can they try and convert that to a first race win for their team in the season? But Sebastian Vettel showing off his skills up in P3, whereas Drugovich was already knocked out in Q2, and Fernando Alonso, the championship leader, ever present up there in P4, but the likes of Magnussen in the Williams and Bottas and the Haas can be happy with themselves up there in P5 and 6. 2 Aston Martins here in the top 10 as well. We've got our work cut out for us in the dry. Let's go to the race.
Welcome along then to Great Britain and the Great Silverstone circuit for today's Grand Prix. The 3.6-mile-long Silverstone circuit is one of the longest of the season, with 18 corners in the current layout. With average lap speeds reaching around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the quickest tracks of the year. Watch out for cars taking the right-handers of Abbey and of Copse flat out. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Kevin Magnussen and Bottas, Hülkenberg, Leclerc, the owner driver and George Russell, Mick Schumacher, Gasly, Max Verstappen and Albon, Drugovich, Schwartzman, Oscar Piastri and Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, Ricciardo, Perez and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. We should talk about Williams. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
It's a British miracle, clear skies and sunny days for this British Grand Prix ahead of us. From P9 on the grid, Verstappen down in P13, so both of us have plenty of work to do as the constructors' leaders at the moment in the standings. The consistency myself and Verstappen have had, despite the engine failures that we faced and the issue at Monaco, we still scored very good points compared to everyone else. You know, as teammates, we've actually been quite close to one another in these races, so long may it continue, and hopefully both of us can jump up the order. But we've got so many quick cars ahead. The Audis in particular look menacingly quick, but we've got Alonso right up there, the Williams, the Haas, Mercedes. They could all face us problems today, but it's the British Grand Prix. Let's hope it's a good one for us today in our home race as we go to 5 red lights, and we are underway for 26 laps around Silverstone. Leclerc with a brilliant start, Bottas slow in the Haas. It's 3 wide into turn 1. We have to take a little bit of avoiding action, lifting off to not crash into Hulkenberg, and Russell with a large dive bomb down the inside of Village as we're overtaken by the Mercedes. We're going to try and overtake Bottas though and follow Russell through just to maintain our grid position of P9. So not the best start for us, neither is it for Max Verstappen. He's down to P14 now, and as Felipe Drugovich for company, both him and Drugovich looking to recover in the Ferrari and AAR respectively. Meanwhile, Vettel stays put in P3 there, and it's still a 1-2 for Audi. Carlos Sainz off that pole position in P1, but Lando Norris chasing him down as it's very nose to tail actually between the top 3 to 4 cars. Alonso lurking in the background, but here goes Lando Norris in the Audi on the inside for the race lead at the end of lap 1, and he's got it in front of the home crowd. Lando Norris leads the British Grand Prix. Vettel all over the back of Sainz's rear end, but in turn that's actually hindered him because he's been caught up behind it, and Fernando Alonso looking to go round the outside of the final corner. The Haas gets involved as well, maybe, of Kevin Magnussen as they go through the long right and left as we now dive down the inside of Russell and pay back the dive bomb he did to us. And we're going to do one further as we go round the outside then of Hulkenberg and the Aston Martin, and we're turning on the aggression to climb up this grid up into P7 now, closing to Kevin Magnussen, pulling out for maybe a move on the inside like Vettel is, and Alonso's locked up. Alonso with a huge mistake, and he's now back down to P4 as Vettel gets through into P3. We're now right all over the back of Kevin Magnussen, who all of a sudden finds himself chasing after Leclerc as he got held up slightly by Fernando Alonso. So Alonso, uncharacteristic error there from him this season with a lock-up, and lets Vettel through into P3. Magnussen, oh, he's gone for it in the Williams. He overtakes Leclerc fair and square in the middle of Maggins and Beckett. He's pulled down the Mercedes pants there, and now we're right up behind Leclerc. Bit of battery use as we go down this straight. We're going to be wheel to wheel, squeeze him a little bit or the long way round. Leclerc will try and get the elbows out, but we're going to have the overwhelming pace to get the move as Leclerc now locks up horrendously. Nearly goes straight on into the gravel almost, and Hulkenberg is up into P7, and all of a sudden Mercedes back in a usual position as they have been this most of the season, going backwards in this one as now we see Mick Schumacher battling Bottas for P10 as the Williams appear to... Oh my! What a dive bomb from Schumacher. How is he... Oh no, he has lost a bit of his front wing. That was just uncalled for. I was about to compliment Mick Schumacher and Williams as a whole for the race pace today, but Schumacher has just ruined his own race by going to the back of one of the Mercedes cars as we now watch Alonso still now re-engaging with Vettel, and already well within 1 second of the German to try and re-overtake him. And just from these opening laps, I feel like there's going to be a titanic battle brewing between these two former world champions, and up ahead it's just all Audi as it's a 1-2 still. Lando Norris leading the way, and here we go at the end of lap 3. Alonso sails past that Aston's pretty damn quick in a straight line, but Vettel equally looking pretty damn handy around here today. So these two will continue to battle, and they've actually slowed each other up to the point where Magnussen in the Golf Porsche Williams has caught up to them, doing very well, I must say, right now in the top 5. But we're going to try and ruin the party because these guys continue to sit in each other's turbulent dirty air. We've caught up to them finally with clean air behind, and we set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far onto lap 5 with so much speed carry through turn 1 compared to the Williams, and it's going to be another dive at Village and pretty much a copycat of the one we did on Russell. And we're now into the top 5 for the first time in this race and showing finally a bit of race pace. It's taken a while to get there. These tyres actually took a bit to really rubber in and heat up for some reason. Brand spanking new set of soft tyres from the wet quali, but we're here now as behind now Magnussen struggling immediately with Hulkenberg for company. Can the German go the long way round? No, he can't. And the Dane's going to stay ahead in P6 for now. Meanwhile, up ahead of us, Vettel pulling out for the move on the inside of Cops. Alonso and Vettel once again side by side, making a little bit of contact maybe, as they're now going to just get into single file before Maggott and Beckett. But we're joining them here as the reigning world champion, of course, in this season. So we've got, how many is that? 9 world championships between us from P3 down to P5. Vettel's through into P3. Alonso, though, keeping at it. But Vettel, for now, will remain in 3rd place. And we've fully joined this fight now because we're now nose to tail with Alonso. Vettel ahead in a similar position. So here we go then. 9 world championships between us, and we're all going to do battle for the last podium spot, as it seems to be all Audi out in front as Alonso goes for another re-overtake up into P3. These guys have been swapping pretty much every single lap, but now the question is, can I get in the middle of it? Because right now it's proving a bit difficult because they've actually got so much pace getting DRS off one another that it's quite tricky to get something done. As meanwhile the Audis have actually swapped positions though, as Sainz now is in P1. Vettel looking for the move as they enter Le Field. The two of them make contact. Vettel squirming on the rear, and this is our chance now to dance the car round the outside of Le Field. The crowd going probably wild on the left hand side of us. It's now a drag race towards Cops. Vettel still there on our inside. We turn in, but Vettel is so aggressive mid-corner. No love lost between old pals and teammates, but into Maggott and Beckett, I'm going to have to concede the position because that could have been pretty nasty. Our car started to get caught up on that red sausage curb, and we could have easily been pinched in by the Germans. So we live to fight for another day and learning to choose and pick our battles wisely. So we remain in P5 and actually have to do some defending against Magnussen as he tries to overtake us, and instead, because he tried a bit of an audacious dive on the inside and got pinched in, Hulkenberg has actually overtaken him for P6. But now we go again as Vettel into Stowe goes for the inside move, makes a tiny bit of contact with Alonso. Here we come through, but we're boxed in. Alonso back down the inside. Alonso and Vettel side by side, but they're wide, and through we go up into P3 of the Grand Prix. 2 for 1 onto lap 9, and Hulkenberg now is on the inside of Sebastian Vettel, emulating Lewis Hamilton in what he did last year in the real life British Grand Prix. We've gone through 2 cars in the final corner. Vettel maintains P5 though ahead of Hulkenberg, but here's a replay of how that looked on board of that. So we just take a tighter line, cut in tight, and those two are too busy drifting and fighting each other to kind of really realise where we are. Alonso did actually really well to dive Vettel back down the inside here, but now they're just too busy squabbling with each other, and we do exactly what Hamilton did, stay tight on the apex, get a much better entry and exit to that final sequence of corners, and we're through 2 positions for 1. But as has been the case this entire race, Alonso and Vettel are not going to go down without a fight, and they're right back at us. Alonso right underneath our rear wing. He pulls out to the left. We defend the inside line, but the tyres are starting to go off, and they're going to scream as we make a half spin. Somehow we've managed to catch that. How the hell have we done that? And now Alonso's pushing me into the pit lane. We're side by side. That's not going to end well. And Alonso, we have to concede the position as he goes up in P4, but I didn't actually plan to be here. I didn't want to be in the pit lane. I was technically actually trying to continue on, to be fair, after that half spin and how hard we locked up pretty much every tyre. maybe probably a good thing Alonso pushed us into the pit lane because our tyres were going to be cooked. So actually maybe the better option for us. So thank you, Fernando. But technically, Alonso did just push me into the pit lane and force that side-by-side moment into the pit entry. And that could have been pretty damn nasty if it wasn't for me backing off a little bit as we touched the grass on the outside, because that pit lane entry is definitely not 2 car lengths wide at the very point you go in and put the pit limiter on. But now out the pit, we've got very cold tyres, and it's the same problem as we had at the start of the race. The tyres aren't switching on in this Ferrari around Silverstone, and Vettel just easily overtakes us in Village, and we've now got Magnussen for company. So this is very bemusing stuff here. We haven't had to face this the entire season, but for whatever reason, around this circuit, the Ferrari is just not switching on the tyres as quick as other cars, and Vettel is up and through into P6 right now on the road. A couple of cars have actually jumped us, so this is actually the legit position we find ourselves in, as Vettel is looking to re-overtake Alonso. Bit of contact, more contact. Vettel forcing the move through, and we almost career into the back of Alonso because he loses so much momentum in the middle of that. Magnussen did the same thing to me, actually. Now we actually find ourselves defending against the Williams once again, and looking to now get the jump on Alonso. Oh, that is what you want to see. What an exit. Now side by side with the championship leader, one of our rivals this season, Alonso flying high in the Aston Martin, but we get the better of him today now, up into P6, and hopefully I need to try and push away and try and catch Vettel's DRS to stay ahead of Alonso, because you know he's going to be at it. But to be honest, Alonso's looking a little bit slow there now, already about 1 second behind us, so I wonder, those 2 bits of contact with Vettel, has he got some slight floor damage? Because I didn't make any contact with Alonso that entire time, but you saw the exit we got on the exit of Stowe. It was insane versus the Aston, so I reckon if I had to guess, Alonso's got some floor damage because of Sebastian Vettel's antics in Maggots and Beckett. Speaking about Vettel, though, he now overtakes the second Aston Martin, Hulkenberg, who did jump us in the pit stops, but we're going to have an absolutely clinical dive bomb and overtake on him into the final couple of corners, and we're not messing about. We're up into P5 again, and I am determined to stick with Vettel, basically use him as a horse to my carriage to pull me along in this race, because he's got some insane pace. So we may not be teammates anymore, but we're going to be effectively working together whether he likes it or not, because I've got the advantage of being behind him and making that decision. As meanwhile, up at the sharp end, Carlos Sainz has been leading a lot of this second part of the race, but Lando Norris is determined to try and get the lead back off his teammate. The two were side by side at Stowe. Lando now dives round the outside of the final couple of corners, and I think they're still jockeying for position side by side through the entirety of that long right-hander. They still go on side by side into turn 1 on lap 17, Audi versus Audi. Neither of them have won a race this season, and they're desperate to be the one to be Audi's first win in season 6. It's taken a while, but things are starting to click for Audi, and 7.2 seconds ahead of George Russell. I think they're pretty safe for the 1-2. It's just about keeping it clean for them, and hopefully for their sake neither of them make contact with one another, as Lando Norris goes round the outside into the field and gets P1. But they're going to swap and swap, just as maybe Vettel might swap with George Russell. He's tucked up behind him, but Vettel takes the leaf out of Lando's book and goes for the inside move of this second last corner. What a move for Vettel, actually, because he was actually fully behind Russell that entire time, and only mid-corner did he find some momentum to go around the outside. So very impressive stuff here from Vettel, I must say, driving at his absolute best. This has been an absolute classic Sebastian Vettel from Season 3 and Season 4, when he was on the other side of the garage in the team he's driving for now. AAR, of course, the new team principal of my own team, as in this new season, very odd scenario, still sometimes takes some getting used to, but we get past George Russell, defend brutally into the field, and Hulkenberg snaps up P5. Meanwhile, Verstappen has made progress. He's up into P9, and he's overtaken our rival, Fernando Alonso. Of course, Verstappen himself is chasing after Alonso in the championship, so that's great news for the Dutchman. And Alonso is really suffering from some kind of damage, I suspect, from Vettel, and maybe even the fracas that happened into the pit entry, which was Alonso's own fault because he turned into me. As we continue to see the Audis battling, and Lando Norris retaking P1 of this Grand Prix, but at some point, is one of them going to pull away and find that break they need? I think they might. Lap 21, look at the minimap. Lando Norris, he's out ahead in P1. He's broken the DRS, so this might be the time for us to now overtake Vettel. 5 laps to go. I've been kind of tactically saving a lot of ERS. You can see we've got a lot of battery saved up. We've been saving tyres. This might be the time to try and pounce, get Vettel, and then just try and push flat out to bridge the 4 seconds to Carlos Sainz to, dare I say, get a second place and make it a British 1-2 at the British Grand Prix, as Lando Norris is now nearly 3 seconds ahead. And here we go then. Vettel's going to be a sitting duck, DRS open, battery deploying all the way. We pull out for the move. No, Jeff! No, you're kidding me! You're kidding me! This can't be! Don't tell me it's going to be another failure! This can't! We just got into 3rd! It's a bloody podium! We just made the move! We just talked about this plan of going for Carlos Sainz now, with 4 laps to go in our home race. We're in a podium position, but into Village, the engine is going to go! It's another engine failure for our Scarlet Red car. Ah! This Ferrari, man! Come on, can this team do anything? Bloody hell. Bloody hell. This should have been ours. We should have got a load of points. A load of points on Alonso. He's down in P14, Alonso. Oh, what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. You know what? I am really, really living the life of a Ferrari F1 driver this season. I really am. I fully understand how now Leclerc and Sainz feel in real life, because for the 3rd time, we're walking to the back of the garage after our Ferrari has blown up.
A victory for Alfa Romeo, and the team will certainly be celebrating tonight. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today? So here they come now, out onto the podium. It's thrilling to see this team go toe-to-toe with the best in the sport and come out on top. What a superb victory for the Alfa Romeo team.
You know what hurts even more is the fact we made it so far into the Grand Prix. We had, like, what, 4 laps to go, 3 laps to go, and the engine failed then. After such a titanic battle with Vettel, Alonso, it was insane. That would have been such a hard-earned P3. And now we've got 0. We've got 0. It's a 1-2 for Audi. They win for the first time in Season 6. Lando Norris gets his first win for his brand new team here this season. And that's going to be massive for Audi to jump up the Constructors' Championship. And in the end, somehow, Fernando Alonso, being the god he is, pulled up to P10. So he actually gains 1 point. But where on earth is Verstappen? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I was wondering where Verstappen was in the top 10, because he was there in the top 10 when I retired. That means... that means... Well, he just DNF'd. He's DNF'd as well. That must have been an engine failure for him after my one. So, can you imagine if this was a real race? How mad F1 Twitter would have been going. How mad the Tifosi would be. It's a double engine failure for Ferrari at the British Grand Prix, both in the last 4 laps of the Grand Prix. That is shocking. Shocking. Alonso now stays ahead in the championship, but he's now only 4 points ahead of Felipe Drugovich, who is the man who gains the most in this race in terms of getting close to the lead. Verstappen remains in third place, but now Lando Norris firmly in the fight, maybe, in P4, as we sit down in P5 now, 20 points off the top. You know, it technically only 1 point lost to Alonso, but it's still 20 points in a season where, well, you just can't guarantee the reliability of this car because it's freaking Ferrari. Ironically, after that, we still lead the Constructors' Championship because of the good work myself and Verstappen have been doing when the car actually wants to work, but, my own team now, 11 points behind us. AAR Archer Racing with Vettel and Drugovich scoring well today. Audi up there chasing after Aston Martin. Things are changing. Williams now ahead of Mercedes because of their points all there. So the landscape of Formula 1 is very much permanently changed right now in this season. You've got McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes way down there. Those three teams were the top three teams back in like season 2 to 3 and 4. So, you know, things have really changed here. But one thing doesn't change is Ferrari having these issues. Even with us leading the team, we can't do any magic. We can't avoid these failures because they just happen. They happen and there's no way to get away from them. You can't if you restart the race, they're still going to happen on the exact same lap actually. So it's hard coded into the race, so we just couldn't avoid it in any way. Oh wow, that's bittersweet. What a sick race. And it did not deserve that ending, but that is how it's ended, guys. If you have enjoyed it nonetheless, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And I guess we just have to take our medicine and go on to the next race. Goodbye.